Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring, and my review of issue 74 of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest, the weekly Partworks magazine from Hachette Publishing in association with Games Workshop, which introduces you to the world of Warhammer 40,000. This magazine comes out every week at $7.99, and every week you get either some hobby supplies like paints and brushes or some plastic miniatures. And with issue 74 we get something that I've been looking forward to for a little while because it is something that I wanted for my Death Guard army, which I do not already have. It is a Death Guard Tallyman. So we're going to take a quick look at that sprue now. So this is the sprue. It is not a very big one. And this is a hero level character for the Death Guard forces. It is a monopose miniature, comes in quite a few bits, and it is beautifully detailed, and it's got lots of really cool stuff going on. The Tallyman is constantly keeping track of the numbers. So he's got you can see he's got a little bone pencil there in his hand, and he is holding a piece of parchment where he's keeping track. And of course, he comes with his own little nurgling assistant, almost as nice as the sassy nurgling. He's got a little scrolls, little parchments under each arm. Absolutely fantastic. I absolutely love nurglings. I think they're brilliant. Death Guard forces are generally quite dark and bleak, and the miniatures are quite repulsive, and then suddenly you get these little nurglings running around, and it just adds just a touch of comedy to it, which I think is a nice juxtaposition with all the grimness that you normally get. But yeah, so this is a really, really nice miniature. Like I say, it is monopose, so it's only going to go together one way, and with this much detailing and the way that it is cut up, it's going to be difficult to do any kind of conversions with, although I'm sure people have done it. Now this miniature actually retails, the full retail price is £17.50. That's what you would pay if you were to go into a Warhammer store and buy one off the shelf. So the fact that we are paying £7.99 for this magazine and getting a £17.50 miniature on the cover, that means this issue represents fantastic value. It's actually a saving of £9.51 over retail, which is really, really good. As you can see on the cover here, we have a beautifully painted Tallyman miniature. And as always with these magazines, we are starting off with some fluff. So we are getting information regarding the Tallymen, what they're up to, what they're all about. They're all about preaching Nurgle's creed and empowering their allies. And then we've got a little bit on Scribus Wretch, a named Tallyman character. And then we're into some different stuff, because like I say, the fluff sections in the magazines now are pretty much a grab bag of bits and pieces of stuff they haven't talked about previously. So now we're talking about Sergeant Kronos. And then we have a very small amount on Antario Kronos and the history of war. And then we're into a section on suppressors. And suppressors are relatively new forces for the Space Marines, and I really don't like them. This is, I don't know, it's the guns, the massive guns and the jump packs and the posing, and it all just looks a little bit unnatural. And this is entirely a personal thing. Obviously, they're beautifully detailed, as always, as you would expect with any Games Workshop miniature. So yeah, the detailing's all there, but I don't know, they look daft and I don't like them. So we've got a bit on suppressors, and then we've got a bit on eliminators, which are basically snipers that look way nicer than the old scouts with sniper rifles. Now, I've just said that about some miniatures that I didn't like. These miniatures I really, really do like. I think these are absolutely fantastic. Really good character. Really nice posing. Really, really good. But that's it for our fluff section, and now we are into the build instructions for the Tallyman. And there's a warning here to make sure that you assemble the parts in numerical order, because It's quite a detailed miniature in the way they've cut it up, that certain elements are going to overlap slightly to try and hide the joins. So just be a bit careful, but yeah, very straightforward. By this point in the magazine, we have built way more complicated miniatures. And then obviously we're into the painting guide, and these painting guides are, you know, by now we know exactly what we're getting with these, and they're always very good. And there's our nurgling being painted up. What a fantastic miniature. Honestly. Worth having this miniature just for him. Yep. Using a little bit of Nihilak oxide for the weathering. Highlighting. Ooh, now this is interesting. They're actually giving some advice on doing the freehand writing on the tally scroll. That's interesting. Cool. Freehand anything, freehand writing, freehand patterning is always very difficult. So it's nice to have some step-by-step instructions there. It is one of the trickier things to have to deal with. You do require a very steady hand, and you know, you need to make sure your paints are the right consistency. You need to really take your time, and yeah, it's not an easy thing to do. So it's nice that they've addressed it. It really is nice that they've addressed it. But I guess if it's something that you're really worried about, you could leave him with a blank parchment at this point. It could be the start of the battle. He hasn't had a chance to write any notes yet. Dear Diary, Primaris have turned up. Battle commences. Here's our finished guy. They've done a cool thing down here. They've done a little blowout section of details you may have missed. So it's just saying, double check these details, make sure you've got the paint on them, which is cool. That's very helpful, especially with a very detailed miniature like this. Lots of things going on. So it's nice to have that just to make sure you got everything done, got everything right. And then we are into a new battle. Power in numbers. And we've got a tally scroll here. What's it say here? Each tallyman carries a ream of scrolls upon which they tally their counts. Use the scroll below and tally each objective as you play through the mission 3 times. If you manage to tally all 7 objectives, then your Death Guard forces will be victorious. Oh, well, that's interesting. So, the Death Guard sorcerers have identified 3 places of power where the veil between reality and the warp has already begun to weaken. Typhus and Lord Felthius have ordered their troops to draw the Space Marines into battle around these 3 locations. A tallyman will accompany each force. If the tally grows big enough, the unholy corruption of Nurgle's realm will begin. Right, okay, so that's interesting. We're getting a battle that you're intended to play 3 times as like a mini campaign. And as you're playing through, you need to keep track of these objectives. You've got 7 disgustingly resilient rolls passed in 1 turn. Of course, it is 7, because 7 is Nurgle's special number. So there's 7 objectives. And 7 features in all of those objectives. 7 supercharged plasma shots in a single turn, 7 ultramarine models slain in 1 turn, 7 poxwalker models slain in 1 turn, 7 psychic tests passed in 1 game, 7 Death Guard command points used in 1 game, and 7 victory points earned over the course of 3 games. This is interesting. This is something a little bit different. The Tallyman The Comet. So the battle itself is a case of putting together 3 of your battle mats. You've got the forces deploying at opposite ends of the table, a traditional face-off, if you will. It looks like each player gets to put 1 objective marker on the table and then build a battle-forged army with a maximum power rating of 50 points. It doesn't say it here, but obviously the Death Guard player needs to take a tallyman, and also with one of the objectives being Poxwalker related, you want to get some Poxwalkers on the table also. And the victory conditions are each objective controlled at the end of the game is 2 victory points. A player controls an objective if they have more models within 3 inches. 1 victory point for slaying the enemy warlord. Each game lasts 5 battle rounds. If the Death Guard player completes all of the tally scroll in 3 games, they are victorious. Cool. I like that. That's something a little bit different. It's, at the end of the day, it's pretty much a straight up head-to-head firefight. There are a couple of objectives on the board for extra points, but it's a head-to-head firefight. But the Death Guard player is going to have to be thinking carefully about doing what is necessary to get those marks on the tally scroll. So that's interesting. I like that a lot. Very thematic. Good work. And then finally, at the back here, we have our rules for the Tallyman, which will be blank on the reverse so that we can take it out without ruining anything. And that's it. We're at the end of another issue. Let's have a look at what's coming up next. Now, this is where it gets really exciting. Our next 4 issues, which I have already received, are issues 75, 76, 77, and 78, and each contains components for building the Mahusive Primaris Repulsor, which is a big old slab of vehicle to plunk on your tabletop. I am probably going to cover all 4 of these magazines in one video to get it all done, so I don't have to talk about issue 78, which just contains a plastic base. But anyway, that's it. That's our issue 74. As always, I'm going to put up a running tally here, and this is basically the cost of subscribing to the magazine at the cover price each week versus the cost of purchasing all the products we have received with the magazine at full retail price. So I am not taking into account any online discounts that you might be able to get, but also I am not taking into account the value of the magazine itself. And hopefully some people will find that interesting. But that is it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you have liked this video, please consider pressing that like button. If you have really liked the video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so. And hopefully, I'll see you all again very soon. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.